What is up, guys? It is the Sound Alchemist, and today I'm back to bring you Season 2, I guess you can call it, of GrimDark Battles. Now, if you guys don't know what GrimDark Battles is, think of it as like a death match pitting two characters of the Warhammer 40k universe going up against one another. We dissect their strengths, their weaknesses, their notable feats, and then we do a what-if scenario going head to head in a massive battle. Now, if you guys haven't seen the first season, we've got tons of great fights. For example, we've got Gaskell versus Farsight. We've got Karn the Betrayer going up against everybody's favorite Grey Knight, Drago, and so many more battles. So, to begin Season 2, I had to do it a little bit differently. This isn't a 1v1, no, this is a 5v5. So this is the first ever squad battle, and we're pitting Nurgle's Nerdlings going up against the Orcs' Gretchen. Now, the way we do this, we used to do it going off of votes, but we found out that usually the more popular one would win the battle instead of the one that makes the most sense. So, based on the lore, the winner will be decided, but I'm still going to let you guys know how you voted. So, usually about a week or so before we put out our GrimDark Battles, check out our Facebook page and the YouTube channel, because there will be polls where you guys can vote for the victor. Now, if you guys want your own suggestions to be put on here, please let me know down in the comments below what other battles you guys want me to cover. But for now, let's dive into this GrimDark battle. On one side, we have the Nurglings. Nurglings are essentially miniature versions of the Great Unclean One. They're mischievous, and they dance about in swarms. On their own, they pose very little threat. However, one scratch would be enough to leave you with a festering wound that will eventually lead to your death. These Nurglings can often grow to about 12 inches tall, depending. And like I said before, they're not very strong, they're not very fast, or smart. Hell, on a 1v1 battle, they will pretty much lose against anyone every single time. I mean, a regular person can literally just kick one aside. But where Nurglings prosper is in hordes. A swarm of Nurglings will leave all vegetation in their wake as rotten sludge, and if you're unlucky enough to be caught in this swarm, you too will end up as sludge. Now, they have a variety of toxins within them. Each claw, each tooth is just jam-packed with Nurgle's diseases. So, one scratch, one bite will literally mean your downfall. So basically, to sum things up, the pros to being a Nurgling is that they're very resilient to pain, and that they carry horrible diseases and poxes. Unfortunately for them, they're slow, they're stupid, and they're weak on their own. So now that we have a better grasp on what a Nurgling is, let's jump against their opponents, the Gretchen. Gretchen are very small orcoid creatures. Just like how Nurglings are mini Great Unclean Ones, Gretchen can be compared to being mini orcs. They love to fight as long as it's against a weaker opponent. They generally are used as slaves by the orcs. If they're not slaves, then they're either forced into battle, they're being forced to fix broken war machines, sometimes they're even used as ammo runts, or they will assist pain boys in like orky surgeries and that kind of thing. So pretty much they get pushed around, they're at the bottom of the food chain, and it's just not a great life if you're a Gretchen. However, because of this, they tend to be a little bit more smarter and more versatile in their tactics, because Gretchen are put into different fields. They tend to do different types of I guess, roles as like jobs and stuff, so they get a little bit more tactical that way. But anyway, again, they're not as strong one-on-one, but since they are smarter, they do know how to wield pistols, knives, and they can use other instruments such as wrenches and stuff as weapons on the battlefield. So Again, because of this, they're going to be a little bit more of a threat, but once again, in a swarm, in a group of Nerdlings, they're a little bit tougher. So again, if you do have a large enough squad of Gretchen, perhaps one day they may be strong enough to overthrow their orc masters and form their own wall. And this has happened, it's just not very common. So again, guys, the pluses is they get to use weapons and they're smart. And the negatives, I guess it's the same thing as a Nerdling. They're not very, their leadership skills isn't really up there and they're pretty weak. So again, it is a 5v5 fight, and let's dive into this GrimDark battle. A looted battle barge has been drifting in space for quite a few months now. The orcs have completely clobbered all of the humies and spiky boys inside, and all that remains are decomposing bodies and battle-hungry orcs. Deep in the bowels of the ship, a lone chaos cultist has survived, and he's been living off of the flesh of both slain orcs and chaos space marines. Unfortunately for this individual, his belly has been festering a vile amount of rotten flesh, and he feels excruciating pain as his intestines begin to tear apart from the inside out. Tiny claws pierce his flesh, and out crawl 5 bloody Nerdlings. Jumping with joy, they hop about in their new environment, looking to make new friends. Just then, a squad of Gretchen enter the storage room to find new trinkets to trade amongst one another. These two groups of green beings lock eyes. "Attack!" the Gretchen yell. The only Gretchen with a pistol fires at the demons. 2 shots miss, but one lucky round hits a Nerdling, tearing a chunk out and severing its right arm. Nonetheless, the demons gleefully continue their advance. The Gretchen momentarily halt at the shock of the demon ignoring its wound. Well, at least one Gretchen continues his assault, and he lunges in on the Nerdlings. Poor Gretchen. With no weapons to aid him, his punches and kicks were met with razor-sharp teeth and claws. Seeing this grisly scene, the Gretchen retreat, but the demons continue, and they split up to chase after them. The remaining Gretchen grab hold of the closest weapons they could find, knives and wrenches, and seeing the already damaged Nerdling on its own, 3 of the remaining Gretchen gang up on him, clobbering him with their heavy wrenches and knives. Just then, the other Gretchen tries to join in on the beating going on, but he gets interrupted by the Nerdlings. In a last-ditch effort, the Gretchen attempts to toss a grenade, but the sharp teeth of the Nerdlings gnaw its arm off mid-throw. The grenade lands a few feet away from the rest of his squad. Kaboom! Another Gretchen goes down by this massive explosion. However, the already dead Nerdling's body also gets caught in the blast. From this blast, just like a pus-filled zit, the Nerdling's body pops, spraying its acidic blood all over the Gretchen survivors. Unfortunately for them, they begin melting away, for this Nerdling carried a very potent toxin derived by Papa Nurgle himself. The remaining Nerdlings dance as the Gretchen scream in agony. Their joy would soon end, for these screams caught the attention of the orcs in the barge. But for now, the winners of this grim dark battle are the Nerdlings. And just like that, guys, that brings us to the end of yet another grim dark battle. So at the end of the day, yes, the demonic Nerdlings took it 4-0. Only one Nerdling died, and it makes sense, because like if you think about it, the pistol couldn't really do much, and like knives and stuff and whatnot, like Gretchen are not just going to charge in after seeing their buddy get, basically torn apart. So they were going to systematically retreat and kind of pick them off one by one. But, Gretchen, they're weak, they're clumsy, and at the end of the day, they get themselves killed. And that's exactly what happened. So because of this, they only managed to kill that one weak Nerdling that got shot at the beginning. and the acidic bile and toxins managed to take out the remaining ones. So let's see how you guys voted. So at the end of the day, the Gretchen got 31% of the vote, while Nerdlings got 69%. So again, I agree with you guys. Gretchen are very cowardly, and they generally only attack if the odds are in their favor. So with that being said, Nerdlings are way more durable. They like to have fun, and so they don't see battle as like a chore or as a way to like sustain themselves. They're just doing it to have fun. So at the end of the day, the Nerdlings took this one. This one will be featuring a Genestealer cult and a Dark Eldar character. So of course, we've got the heavy-hitting Aberrant going up against the alchemy-created Grotesque. So let's dive into what actually are the strengths and the weaknesses behind these guys, and then let's get into this GrimDark battle. So let's begin with the Aberrant. The covert infiltrators of the Tyranids, the Genestealer, is a creature unlike any other. They are cunning and brutally vicious. They tend to tear apart their victims with their razor-sharp claws. However, the Aberrant is a hybrid Genestealer on steroids. Often misshapen and sprouting extra appendages, these monstrosities are insanely strong, and no one knows why these beasts arose within the Genestealer cult, for their appearance is most definitely not human. Anyway, because of this, the cult leader often tends to hide these weapons of war until their destructive capabilities is needed. Due to their abnormalities, they tend to lack intelligence, and therefore are pretty much used as line breakers or frontal assault units during a battle. Because of their dim-wittedness, they can't really wield ranged weaponry effectively, so they tend to carry hammers, pickaxes, rocks, anything really that's basically pretty easy to wield in close combat. So with that being said, that's pretty much all the information we have to go off of Aberrants. So now, let's go and talk about their opponent, the Grotesque. Legend has it that none join the ranks of the Grotesques voluntarily. Now that's because Grotesques were not born as they are, but they are rather created by the alchemical practices of the homunculi of the Dark Eldar. And just like a mad scientist, the homunculi take on an unlucky prisoner and make him miserable, and even more excruciating pain is inflicted on them by basically going through a process that changes them into this Grotesque. This process is literally a very bad experience. Not just because they're feeling pain, but because they're literally changing into another creature. It is a horrible process that's very painful, that involves the slave being infused with growth elixirs, steroids, stimulants, toxins, and all this stuff. Basically, this is basically used to make their muscles get bigger, make them immune to pain, and then the cherry on top is that a lobotomy is used. Lobotomy is used to make them obedient and easier to control, and thus, depending on the homunculus, perhaps the arms of the Grotesque is then hacked off and replaced with a weapon of their choosing. These weapons can be blades, tentacles, or some other deadly thing, for example maybe a mace, a chainsaw. It's really up to the homunculus's artistic taste. Now you would think this would be enough, but no. The final step to becoming a Grotesque is that the Grotesque's face is then covered with a pitch black iron mask. This mask is basically saying that you are not who you were, you are now the Grotesque. So any chance of personality, anything that would make them resemble who they once were, has now been completely erased. Basically, they're just brain dead. Well, they're not brain dead. They can still think, but they're kind of hindered because of the lobotomy. But again, because of this lobotomy, they aren't capable of wielding intricate weaponry, so they're even pumped with more steroids and stimulants before battle to make them go into a berserker rage. And because of this, they tend to be very devastating in close combat. The weaponry, like I said before, varies depending on what the homunculi give them, but, you know, it could be knives, clubs, claws, tentacles, it all depends. And one last thing to note, depending on what species the grotesque slave was before this process, they could become even more hardier in combat. For example, if it's just a regular Tau, they might not be as durable as if they were using orc slaves to become grotesques, so that's just something to kind of think about. But anyway guys, that's all the lore behind these two combatants, and it is time to dive into this grim dark battle. Ah, how lovely my collection of war beasts has become after those that we captured. Those guardsmen, they're so weak and puny, but some of them seemed a little off. No matter. The homunculus then hears what sounds like gunfire erupt outside of his lair. Moments later, his chamber doors are smashed open as a gene-stealer aberrant and a squad of neophyte hybrids barge in. The homunculus quickly tosses a smoke grenade as he rushes over to unleash his creations. He then fires off another grenade, but this time it ignites the smoke, instantly incinerating the gene stealers. But not before he is hit twice by their gunshots. The homunculus manages to release the biggest of the grotesques, but out from the smoke, a massive warhammer comes down on the Dark Eldar. It appears the aberrant was armed. Seeing his master fall, the grotesque charges in at the Xenos beast. The two clash in a battle of sheer strength, neither one giving in. The aberrant then shifts his weight and gets under the grotesque, tossing it all the way across the room. The tyrannid quickly rushes over and swings his warhammer, narrowly missing its target. Again and again it swings its heavy axe, and finally a mighty blow connects. Blood pours out from the grotesque's mask, but due to all the combat drugs coursing through its body, it feels no pain. The grotesque then counters by wrapping its thorned tentacle arm around the aberrant. In a showcase of drug-induced strength, the Drukari rips off one of the aberrant's arms. In a roar of pain, the gene-stealer backs away, but the grotesque continues its assault, now slicing away with its other arm, this one an acid-dripped bladed arm. The aberrant suffers deep cut after cut, but it too launches a fury of slashes from its razor-sharp claws, until... slice! The aberrant abruptly ceases to move, as its head now has been impaled by the grotesque's bladed arm. The winner, the grotesque. And with that mighty blow, we have a winner, guys. This was a very difficult battle for sure that could have gone either way. Both of these guys are really strong creatures and they have really high durability. Gene Stealers are apex predators. However, the aberrant is a mutation, and in the eyes of the Gene Stealer cult, he is flawed. So right there it shows you that they're not 100% up to par to regular Gene Stealer ferocity, but they're very strong. Now, the grotesque, he's been created through dark alchemy, specifically for speed, strength, immunity to pain, and just as a killing machine. On top of this, they're pumped full of drugs to further enhance their already formidable physique. So basically, because of that, they're already on a level above the Gene Stealer. And on top of this, these two guys, they're not really smart, to put it simply. So you're not going to see some intricate plans or tactics being used. So that kind of evens the playing field. So then the other thing that I was looking at to see who would have the upper hand is the weaponry. When it comes to the Gene Stealer aberrant, he pretty much just wields hammers or pickaxes, which, I mean, yeah, in the hands they're pretty good. But grotesques, they have so much more to offer, mainly because of their Dark Eldar homunculi. They could literally give them buzzsaws, they could give them, like, bladed weapons. So right then and there, they're already going to be able to do more harm with whatever weaponry they're given. Maybe they could have poison-tipped blades, acid sprays. So because of that, I had to give it to the grotesque. And the way you guys voted, it was really close. It was 47% for the grotesque and 53% for the aberrant. So you guys were right then and there, neck and neck, deciding upon which one was going to win. So if you guys thought that the aberrant was going to win, let me know how. Or if you guys thought that the grotesque could have won in a different way, let me know again in the comments below. This is a battle of the gods, as the youngest god of the Eldar pantheon takes on the oldest, or one of the oldest gods of the Catan. So place your bets, guys, as we dive into this GrimDark battle. Who will win, a shard of the Nightbringer, or the Avatar, the Incarn? So let's dive into this lore. Let us begin with the youngest, the Incarn. So while the Nightbringer is as ancient as the galaxy itself, this god is the youngest among the Eldari pantheon. Ennead is also the god of the dead, but some also call him the Whispering God as well. Ennead is essentially the last hope for the Eldar, being able to destroy Slaanesh once and for all. However, this god was born a bit prematurely during the Fall of Cadia's storyline. Essentially, Eldrad was going to sacrifice practically most of the Eldar to bring Ennead into existence, but his plan was foiled due to the Death Watch interfering. Now, even though his plan did kind of get stopped, most of it kind of did work, because, Ennead's here after all. Like I said, Ennead was still birthed, although not as strong as Eldrad intended it. But at least, the Eldar didn't all die. So as the Eldar die off, their souls go to their Craft World's infinity circuits, that or into the Soul Stones. However, those unfortunate ones do get consumed by Slaanesh. But when the Eldar souls go into the Craft World's infinity circuit, this tends to empower Ennead. So in time, Ennead will gain strength, through all the souls that go into the infinity circuits, and eventually this strength will be powerful enough to take out Slaanesh. Now Yvraine and the Inari have summoned forth an avatar of Ennead to aid them in their basically their journey for the Crone Swords. And this avatar has been wrecking face. The Incarn, aka the avatar of Ennead, is the first step in fully resurrecting Ennead to its glory. So now that we know a little bit more backstory into this, let's talk about the weapons, beginning with the Crone Sword Vilith Zar. So this blade is known as the Sword of Souls, and it is the largest and the strongest of all the Crone Swords. It has an awesome ability to shapeshift into whatever weapon it needs to be, and on top of this, legend has it that this blade was forged upon burning souls. Now how badass is that? And unfortunately, that's pretty much all the lore there is on the Incarn, the avatar of Ennead, since it's such a new installment to the lore. Like I said, this was it was being alluded to throughout the years, but the avatar Ennead, it's just been announced during the Fall of Cadia, so it's fairly recent, which is why there's not much lore on it. But now, with that being said, let's dive into the Nightbringer. Azagorod, the Nightbringer, is essentially the god of death. This star god is ancient and way powerful, so much so that he is the reason that fear is felt throughout all the sentient beings in the galaxy. But we'll get to that a little bit later. The Nightbringer is a Catan, meaning that it is a star god of unimaginable power, or better put, it had unimaginable power. Back during the War in Heaven, the Catan were enslaved via being fractured into shards, and now each shard holds only a fraction of its former strength and glory. The appearance of the Nightbringer resembles the Grim Reaper. However, it would make more sense to say that the Grim Reaper is the Nightbringer. So the Nightbringer has slaughtered countless races, so much so that all sentient creatures learned to fear death from this star god. This was true for all life forms except of that of the Krorks, aka the Orcs. Now in its splintered form, the Nightbringer is capable of causing mass destruction with its scythe and its ability, the Gaze of Death. However, its body is made of some or the same necrodermis as that of the Necrons, and therefore with enough damage, this body will indeed break down and fall. But, just like other Catan, it is weak to the powers of the warp. But it does have some major abilities to combat this. For example, you have the ability of Time's Arrow, which can literally rip enemies from time and space, shoving them into an alternate dimension. Now that's just crazy. So, like I said, even though its weakness is that of warp abilities, it's a very formidable opponent nonetheless. Alright guys, before we get into this epic battle, I do want to make one thing clear. This is a battle between a single shard of the Nightbringer against Iniad, which is being summoned forth through the use of an avatar. So it is not indeed the gods going at it at their pinnacle of their strength. It is only a fraction of each god's power going into this battle, and it is the most realistic type of event that they'll probably meet one another, that being a Catan shard and the avatar of Iniad. So let's begin with this GrimDark battle. The ground shakes as a vast fissure opens up upon the ground. Ethereal souls surge out, and among them the mighty Incarn emerges. The sky goes dark as a cloud of pitch-black smoke plummets towards the battlefield. With a mighty swipe of his scythe, the smoke clears, revealing the star god, Azagorod, the Nightbringer. The battle kicks off as the Nightbringer alters the world around the Incarn, the ground becoming alive and stone hands reaching out. The Incarn's speed easily allows him to escape their clutches, and he rushes at the Nightbringer. Crone's sword clashes with Catan's scythe, and a mighty explosion erupts, sending the two weakened gods back in the shockwave. The Nightbringer then summons forth a transdimensional thunderbolt, raw energy crackling from this mighty attack. The Incarn then morphs his blade into a staff, and spins the staff with so much force it repels the thunderbolts. To the surprise of the Incarn, shimmering orbs skyrocket down upon the Elder God. Explosions bombard the Avatar as he is shrouded by the dust and debris of the explosions. The Nightbringer readies his scythe and he approaches the fallen god. But out of the dust the Incarn has caught one of these orbs and launches it right at the ancient Catan. With a slice, the orb is cut in two, but the Incarn is already upon the Nightbringer and pierces his necrodermis with the Crone sword. The Nightbringer then grabs the Incarn's arm and unleashes his gaze of death upon the young god, but this god fires back with his own gaze of Iniad. The two gods pour their entire power into these attacks, for they know that if they get hit, they will suffer immensely. With Vilith Zar still embedded inside the Catan shard's necrodermis body, the Nightbringer slowly gets weaker and weaker, his essence leaving his shell of a body, and this loss of life empowers the young god of death. As Iniad's gaze creeps closer to Azagorod, another hail of shimmering orbs assault the Incarn. Out of the explosion, the Nightbringer emerges with the scythe around the Eldari god's neck, and with a mighty slash, the avatar of Iniad is beheaded. The winner is the Eater of Stars, the god of the dead, Azagorod, the Nightbringer. And there you have it, guys. The winner of this GrimDark battle is that of the Nightbringer. Now don't get me wrong, Iniad is indeed a beast. He is super powerful, but at the same time he's such a young god. We haven't been able to fully see his powers realized, as can be said, since he is gaining powers by the Infinity Circuit. So it was kind of hard to basically put this young god up against the ancient god of the Necrons. So let's see how you guys voted. So in part, for the avatar of Iniad, you guys voted 22%, meaning that the Nightbringer won in a landslide with 78% of the votes. So now let's talk about this battle as to why the Nightbringer has taken him down. So, when we look back in the history of the Catan, the Nightbringer has taken down and eaten other Catan, so he's no pushover. He's strong enough to take out other Catan gods. He's killed entire civilizations, and he is the reason why fear is in the 40k universe. Now, yes, he is weak against warp-based attacks, but we haven't really seen or heard of the Incarn doing any warp attacks. Warp pretty much involves like chaos and all that kind of stuff. So the only real thing that the Incarn had in his favor was the Crone Sword and its ability to shapeshift. So with that being said, the Nightbringer has more experience, and from what I've read, more abilities, such as the powers of the Catan. Now, the Incarn does gain strength from death, but on a one-on-one fight, this doesn't really help him since, if he kills his enemy, he's already won, so he doesn't really gain strength from that. However, the essence of the Catan was breached when he sliced part of his necrodermis off, and with that, I guess you could say that the Nightbringer was losing his life essence and thus empowering the Incarn. But again, the Incarn is such a wild card. It's kind of hard to see in what direction this battle would have gone if he had more abilities to him name, more lore behind him. So in that aspect, I gotta give it to the Nightbringer, and most of you guys agree. Now, another thing that I recently just found out was in the new 8th edition codex for the Necrons. It is stated that a single shard of the Nightbringer is the most powerful shard of all the Catan. So if you take like a shard of the Deceiver, a shard of the Nightbringer, a shard of the Burning One, the shard of the Nightbringer would be more powerful compared to the other two Catan. So this goes to show you just how strong the Nightbringer is. Now, don't get me wrong, the Incarn is indeed powerful, as the whole Eldari race are basically pushing him to be their savior, their hope. But again, guys, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. If you guys have any comments as to how you believe the Incarn would have won, please let me know down in the comments. If you guys agreed with this GrimDark battle, also let me know. And stay tight, guys. Sit tight, stay tight. Whatever you want to do, just be tight. Because we've got a really fun GrimDark battle coming up next. Commander Farsight, the Bane of the Orcs, going up against Gasgul Mag Uruk Thraka, the Beast of Armageddon. So what we did with this one is I went to both Facebook and YouTube and I did a poll. So the poll was, who do you think would win between these two? So the winners of that poll will be revealed at the end of this video, but for now, let's talk about who these characters are, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and their weapons and war gear, and then we'll see who wins this battle. Commander Farsight hails from the Tau Empire, and he leads his own Farsight enclaves. He is known as the Bane of the Orcs, and he is also a traitor and a hero to the Tau. He trained under the legendary Commander Pyrtide, and he got the moniker Farsight because he could anticipate and predict the enemy's tactics in a very short amount of time. His most notable battles include the one where he won countless victories against the Orcs on Arkanasha. So Farsight eradicated the Orc threat by completely reading his opponent and systematically beating them on his own terms. Due to this, he is very proficient in close quarters combat, which is very rare for the Tau race. Now, Farsight also fought against Khorne bloodthirsters on Arthas Moloch. Now, although this fight was cut short, he did manage to survive this battle against the massive demons of the Blood God. And finally, Farsight and his 7 bodyguards fought against thousands of Tyranids, and they prevailed. At the apex of this epic battle, Farsight fought against the Swarm Lord. Dawnblade clashed against Crystalline Blades time and time again. But however, at the end of this battle, Farsight was triumphant. And now let's move to Farsight's weapons and war gear, beginning with the XV8 Crisis Battlesuit. So Farsight pilots a slight variation on the standard model of the XV8 suit. It enhances his reflexes, strength, speed, and durability. And for more protection, he has a shield generator. So this energy shield is strong enough to protect the bearer from attacks that would otherwise obliterate the Crisis suit. It is capable of blocking melee and range attacks alike. For the offense side, he has a plasma rifle. The high-tech weapon fires searing blasts that are essentially miniature suns. They will burn through flesh, bone, and steel with ease. And of course we have his famous Dawnblade. This ancient Xenos blade has unknown origins, and it flickers with chronophagic energies. The sword slices clean through enemies and vehicles with ease. However, the pain doesn't end there. With each life it takes, it adds the life force to Farsight, extending his longevity. And that is the basics when it comes to Commander Farsight. On the other side, we have the Orc war boss, Ghazghkull Mag Uruk Thraka. Ghazghkull is known as the Beast of Armageddon and the Prophet of the Wall. He is the instrument of destruction that was chosen by Gorg and Morg, the Orc gods. He has visions of the past and the future, and therefore he fights unlike any other Orc before him. He learns from his failures, and he always leads his wall in the forefront of battle, never allowing his commanders to outshine him. Now we move on to the notable battles. On the planet of Uruk, Ghazghkull took a bolter round straight to the face, having 30% of his skull blown apart as well as pieces of his brain. He lived this epic battle, and a mad doc fixed him up and gave him an adamantium skull. This gave him visions by Gorg and Morg, and in 6 measly years, he rose to become war boss of his wall. The third war for Armageddon began after Ghazghkull had to retreat twice, however not before claiming countless lives. This time he conquered half of the planet, although for about a month or so it ended in a long stalemate and Ghazghkull grew tired. So he took his massive wall to fight the Tyranids in the Actarius sector. On his way to fight the Tyranids, he fought against warp entities such as demons, gene stealers, space marines, and the occasional orc uprisings. However, Ghazghkull always came out on top. And now we talk about every orc's favorite section, the weapons and wargear, beginning with the cyborg body. So Ghazghkull's body has been cybernetically modified, and thus he can take a bit more punishment than the usual orc. On top of this, he also has mega armor. So this crude, however efficient weapon increases his strength and durability, but it does come at a great cost. Ghazghkull's speed is greatly reduced. But this isn't much of a backhand, because he does carry stick bombs. Now stick bombs are crude grenades that shower the area in shrapnel, and they are larger and stronger than that of the Imperial frag grenade. The Big Shooter. This loud machine gun fires large caliber bullets at the enemy. While not quite so accurate, it does rain a hail of bullets, and Daka will always find its target. And finally we come to the Power Claw. This massive gauntlet has its own force field around it, and it disrupts any and all matter that it comes in contact to. Its massive blades will easily cut a man cleanly in two, and it'll crush even the hardiest of armored vehicles. Now when it comes to weaknesses, I would say Farsight's greatest weakness is that he relies on his crisis suit. Damage it enough, and he's nothing but a small, weak Tau. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. Tau suck in close combat, and he won't really be able to pick up and use his weapons since they're so heavily weighted that he needs his crisis suit, so that could be his downfall. However, when it comes to the orcs, they're not the smartest. However, Ghazghkull is kind of the exception. But he's had so many successes, he's survived so much that he might just be a little bit too cocky. So with that being said, guys, let's go into the battle and find out who the victor of this GrimDark battle will be. The Colosseum gates fly across the battlefield, and out comes Ghazghkull Mag Uruk Thraka. Big Shooter blazing, he laughs, awaiting his opponent. On the other side, the gates rise open, and anime music roars across the stadium. Farsight soars into the sky and makes his superhero entrance. They meet face to face for the first time. 3, 2, 1, battle! Ghazghkull begins his assault by firing his Big Shooter directly at Farsight. However, the Crisis Suit's shield generator absorbs all the bullets. In retaliation, he fires plasma shot after shot at the orc's massive body. Ghazghkull laughs as his cyborg body renders these blasts ineffective. The Big Shooter continues its hail of fire as Thraka lobs over some stick bombs. The explosion overlords the shield generator, and Farsight takes some hits. He flies upwards to avoid the hail of fire, as more plasma shots rain down on Thraka. Again, this plasma rifle doesn't faze Gascoigne, and Farsight changes his tactics. He charges in with his Dawnblade at the ready. Clash! Blade and Plower Claw meet for the first time. Sparks fly as Gascoigne launches Farsight across the battlefield with a powerful kick. As the Tau commander gets to his feet, Gascoigne charges forward, but the orc is too slow. Dawnblade slices at his feet, taking his leg clean off. However, Gascoigne still continues his assault, as if nothing had occurred. Farsight keeps on slashing away, however Gascoigne slams his big shooter against Farsight, knocking him off balance, and then pins him to the ground. Shunk! Gascoigne's Power Claw chops off Farsight's plasma rifle arm. Writhing in agony, Farsight fires his crisis suit's jets, attempting to get away, but Gascoigne's mega armor weighs a ton. As Farsight's life systems flash red, he sees Gascoigne's Power Claw move ever closer to his head. Slice! The crisis suit is beheaded. Gascoigne laughs and whoas in victory. However, crisis suits house their pilots in the midsection of the suit. Farsight, now exposed in his damaged mech, raises up and swings. He beheads the arrogant orc. The winner of this GrimDark battle is Commander Farsight. And there you have it, guys. This was a very, very close matchup. It literally could have gone either way, but after tallying all your votes, Commander Farsight has come out on top with 53%, meaning that Gascoigne had 47. This was literally 3% that gave the victory to Farsight. So all in all, I think that Farsight, not being biased, but I think that Farsight would have the advantage here. He's quicker, he does have the Dawnblade, he's proficient in close combat fighting, and he's been fighting orcs all his life. Now yes, Gascoigne fights a little bit differently. He does have that kind of plot armor since he is being kind of influenced by Gork and Mork, and on top of that, he's very hardy. Obviously nothing was damaging Gascoigne to the point of that he couldn't fight back, but again his downfall was that he was too slow and too arrogant. So at the end of the day, the victory goes to Farsight and the Tau. Now stay tuned, guys, because we got another epic GrimDark battle coming at ya, and that will pit Dante of the Blood Angels against the Chaos War Master Abaddon. Not a spoiler. So go ahead to our Facebook page and check out the little voting thing on our YouTube to kind of figure out who will be the next champion. If you guys like this series, this is the first episode, and I like it a lot. I like doing the research for it. I like coming out with these little scenarios, and I like reading your guys' notes as to who's going to come out on top and why. So at the end of the day, this is decided by you guys, the Warhammer 40k community. So let's keep this series pumping, and let's continue on with GrimDark Battles. As always, guys, this is the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I will catch you guys tomorrow.